So what's happening in the real estate market? Well, I can tell you this, we do have a stable seller traffic through Florida and strong buyer traffic. What does that mean? Are we going into a bubble? Is the bubble going to burst? And what's happening with the demand, supply and demand? Are we in a seller's market, a buyer's market? Well, if you watch TV recently, I'm sure that you know there's quite a few things happening in the real estate market. It's been the topic of conversation. There's a lot of frustrated buyers out there with cash offers. And as Realtor.com says, in this Wild West environment, buyers are doing anything they can to stand out. And more, all cash offers do just that and can mean the difference between getting that dream home or winding up empty-handed again. Maybe you've been in the market to buy a property and you've noticed there's cash offers. I can tell you with all of my recent transactions that we've had a lot of cash offers, or the conventional offers have been a high percent down, meaning that they're putting more money down and taking less of a mortgage, but there are an awful lot of cash buyers out there. So what's the national average for the house appreciation right now? Well, the Federal Housing Finance Agency says it's about 13.9%. CoreLogic says it's up at 11.3%. And the S&P Case-Shiller U.S. National Home Price Index is at about 13.2%. So we're still seeing price appreciation. Local statistics, I'm going to share those with you. I'll have them down at the bottom, but I'm also going to flash those up on the screen for you. And we're going to talk about West Palm Beach, Port St. Lucie, and Stuart. So we'll take a little break in the video for a moment. I'll share with you those exact statistics. Just know that I can also give you those statistics for whatever town that you might be in or you might be interested in purchasing. So I can tell you how the prices have gone up, what the median sales price is, and give you some of that feedback as well for our local market. So what is the home price forecast? What is the strong appreciation? What are we even referring to? Well, NAR says that the prices are continuing to go up at 9.2% per year. That's over an average over a year. And Freddie Mac says 6.6% price increase. So we're still seeing those prices that they're anticipating that they're going up. And as I've always said, I'm going to give you the information that people that are much smarter than me have shared with me. And I love bringing that to you. So what's the appreciation by region? Well, we're going to pay close attention to the South Atlantic region, meaning like the Florida region, because that's where I'm coming to you from, this beautiful water behind me. 12.3% is the approximate appreciation that we're seeing as well here in Florida. Now let's talk about lumber cost. We're still talking about that bubble, and we're still talking about whether it's a seller's market or a buyer's market. So the decline in single-family permits indicates that builders are slowing construction activity as costs rise. While housing starts were strong at the beginning of the year due to home builders constructing homes that were sold pre-construction, higher costs and limited availability of building materials have now paused some projects. And that's Robert Dietz. He's the chief economist at NAHB, National Association of Home Builders. Now, I can tell you this is happening locally. We have had a situation with finding drywall screws, or we've had a challenge with price of lumber. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it on television or any other place that you might be looking now. I've heard prices of a piece of plywood going from $25 to at least double and sometimes triple what the price is. So that means if you were planning on building a home, the builders have to take into anticipation that their cost is more. So they may have bought the land really low, but now they have to build your home, and that means that the cost of lumber is higher. In anticipation of that, we have a local builder that I just heard word from on Wednesday, always keeping my finger right on the pulse of what's happening in the real estate market. And what they've told me is they're going to a new plan for selling their home. It used to be that I could take a buyer to a new home builder, and yes, it's a great idea to have a realtor with you, someone who's knowledgeable in the business to help guide you through making some of those decisions. The home builder told me that they are going to a new model where they're going to put the property on the market, give the buyers 7 days, and take whichever is the best offer on the property. There's more to come about that, and I'll share more of that with you in another video. So let's stay back on what's happening with our lumber cost right now and what's happening to the number of homes that are available. Does this start to tell you a little bit about what this market is? Yes, it is definitely a bit of a seller's market. Now let's go back to that bubble question. Is that bubble going to burst? Well, let me tell you something from Morgan Stanley. They say, we have strong conviction that we are not experiencing a bubble in the U.S. housing market. We are not at all suggesting that home price appreciation will maintain its current torrid pace. Home prices will continue to rise, but more gradually. And that's the strategist for Morgan Stanley. I think they just burst that bubble. So they say we have strong conviction that we are not experiencing a bubble in U.S. housing. Now, it doesn't mean, like they said, that the prices are going down, but they're not seeing this bubble that's going to burst. Looking back at the bubble years, house prices exceeded house buying power in 2006 nationally. But today, house buying power is nearly twice as high as the median sale price nationally. Many find it hard to believe, but housing is actually undervalued in most markets, and the gap between house buying power and sale prices indicates there's room for further house price growth in the months to come. Now that's from Mark Fleming. He's the chief economist at First American. And that tells us a little bit more about the real estate market. So this next slide that I'm going to share with you tells you about how many people have equity in their house. And I will tell you this, that the homes with at least 50% equity are skyrocketing. 17.8 million residential properties with a mortgage were equity rich at least 50% equity. And 31.9% residential properties with a mortgage were equity rich at least 50% equity. 38%, and we really have to stay with this number, 38% of all homes in the United States are owned free and clear. That means that they don't have any mortgage on their property. No mortgage at all. So they're not going to walk away from their home the way that things happened when we went through the short sales and the foreclosures. They have 50% worth of equity, which means that they could sell their house today and they still have that other 50%, meaning that they have that amount of value still held in their property. Not many people will walk away from that. I know I certainly wouldn't. And then contrary to popular belief, owning one's home is frequently more affordable than renting. It is cheaper to buy a home than it is to rent in 2/3 of American counties. And that's by Mike Laughlin. The Homeownership is Affordable Housing. It's still more affordable to buy a home and stabilize that rent price than it is to continue to pay rent. This next graph that I'm going to share with you is the median asking rent from 1990 until 2020. It has gradually gone up and up and up, and we've had some spikes as well, where it has gone up drastically for those rent prices. And when you're buying a home, you get to keep it stable. So your mortgage is a stabilization of that price, and it's not going up. Not to mention, have you ever considered how much it costs to move from one property to the other? So let's talk about stocks, real estate, and bonds. Some of the top financial institutions' advice. I want to share some of their information with you. And what are they saying about this market that we're in? Well, JP Morgan, who we go to a lot for information, says home buyers' interest rates are still historically low, though they are inching up. Housing prices have spiked during the last 6 to 9 months, but we don't expect them to fall soon. And we believe they are more likely to keep rising. If you are looking to purchase a new home, conditions now may be better than 12 months hence. Those who remember the housing bubble of 2006, 2007 may be nervous watching U.S. housing prices soar now. But the previous bubble was fueled by speculative buying, which we do not think is the case now. So what was speculative buying? Well, back during the foreclosure time or prior to when the houses went into foreclosure, someone might take their home, pull all the equity out of the property and buy something like that sailboat out there, or they might buy the jet skis that you might have seen go by, or they might buy a new car, or they may take the equity out of their home and buy another home with it. So now they are financed 100% on their primary home, and they use the money from their primary home to buy another property with the anticipation that that house is going to go up and they could flip the home. They were thinking that they were going to buy the house, make $50,000 in 6 months, and then the market crashed. We do not have that speculative buying right now. Primarily, people are buying a primary home, or they're buying their personal residence home, and they have 50% equity in it, or they own it free and clear. Many people, as we said before, 38% own it free and clear. Now, there are reasons to believe that this is likely to be an unusually long and strong housing expansion. Demand is very strong because the biggest demographic cohort in history is moving through the household formation and peak home buying stages of its life cycle. Coronavirus-related preferences changes have also sharply boosted home buying demand. At the same time, supply is unusually tight with available homes for sale at record low levels. Double-digit price gains are rationing the supply. So it means that they're going up, it's rationing the supply that are out there. Merrill Lynch is who said this, and what does all of that mean to you? Well, have you talked to anybody, I know I have, that might want to have a home gym at this point? Or maybe they're working out of the home now and they want a home office. They don't just want a desk in the corner of the kitchen or the corner of the living room. They actually want to have a dedicated space because they're working from home now. Or instead of going to the gym, because a lot of gyms were shut down during our time when we were dealing with coronavirus, and now they're opening up, and in some places they're fully open, but in some places they're still starting to open up. Just depends on what part of the country you're in. Some people wanted that home gym in their home rather than having to go to the gym. So that's definitely changed what their needs and wants are in a home. Strong demand for housing looks sustainable. Even before the pandemic, demographic tailwinds and historically low mortgage rates had pushed demand to high levels. Consumer surveys indicate that household buying intentions are now the highest in 20 years. As a result, the model projects double-digit price gains both this year and next. So Goldman Sachs is saying that it's the highest in 20 years, that household buying intentions are now the highest in 20 years. So people still want to buy their home. Unlike 15 years ago, the euphoria in today's home prices comes down to the simple logic of supply and demand. And we at Morgan Stanley conclude that this time the sector is on a sustainable, sturdy foundation. This robust demand and highly challenged supply, along with tight mortgage lending standards, may continue to bode well for home prices. Higher interest rates and post-pandemic moves could likely slow the pace of appreciation, but the upward trajectory remains very much on course. So what does that mean, Morgan Stanley? Well, it's saying we at Morgan Stanley conclude that this time the sector is on a sustainably sturdy foundation, whereas before we were on a little bit of shaky ground, just to say at the least. America's choice of best long-term investment. So real estate is still what people consider their best investment. We're at 41%, 26% for stocks, gold 18%, 9% for savings account, and 3% for bonds. And here's another graph for you that shows, you can show where it's changed and how it's changed. And there was a time when gold back in 2011 was up at 34%. Now gold is down to 18%. Back in 2011, real estate was at 19%, and now real estate has gone up to 41%. So people are still saying that real estate is one of your best investments. It's Americans' choice for best long-term investment. So what does all of this mean? Well, what it tells me and what they're saying is that we're not really in a housing bubble and it's not going to burst. Especially, I continue to go back to if 38% of homeowners own their home free and clear, and we have another high percentage that own at least 50% of their home, why would they walk away? Now, I am not saying in any way that we won't have some foreclosures. Unfortunately, we have some people who are in forbearance and they are likely to go into foreclosure. Some of those forbearance agreements have been paid off already. Surprisingly, there were actually more of those than we anticipated, where they came out of forbearance and they are still moving forward with the payments on their home. So I hope that this update that I've shared with you gives you a little bit of information that might help you through your real estate decisions. If you'd like to reach me, I'll leave the information down below. And if you want some reports for your local town located here in Florida, I'd be happy to share that with you as well. Always trying to keep my finger on the pulse of real estate and keep you updated.